we have walls officially on both sides of our kitchen, and we got all of the food put back. So I figured this would be the perfect time to kind of go through it all and just show you what we keep on hand for our pantry. Now, a very important thing to note and keep in mind with this little pantry tour that we're going to do today, this is a working pantry. First of all, we're using it every single day, but also it's a very beginner pantry. So we are not a well-established, we don't have just shelves and shelves and shelves of homegrown, home-canned food. We have some, but we don't have just extreme amounts, hundreds and hundreds of jars. So this is kind of our starting point, and then hopefully in a couple years we can look back on this and see just how much we've improved and how much we've added to it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is our baby food. We are very realistic in the fact that our eating habits doesn't necessarily support that of a baby. She eats multiple times a day, and we typically only make one big meal a day. So we need to be able to provide food for her pretty much every couple hours. She eats quite a bit of food. So for that reason, we make sure that we always have some baby food on hand. We've got some jars of fruit and veggies, and then we also have some jars of meat. And then we've also grabbed some snacks. So we do also have some store-bought puffs because she really enjoys these, and while she's learning to eat real food, it's a good non-choking hazard type thing to give her. But we also decided we are not going to buy these anymore. We're going to keep using them because we bought them, but we kind of had like a little, oh, why didn't we think of that moment? And we are going to start buying freeze-dried food for her instead. So we do have a couple tubs of freeze-dried food. We have some blueberries and some strawberries. And then we just have some stuff on our shelves already that were freeze-dried that we kind of have been giving her, and she seems to absolutely love it. So we made sure that we picked up a couple more of those, and I think we are kind of going to be on the team of spending a lot of money on fruit and freeze-dried foods coming soon. So this is kind of our baby food corner right here. And then all we have is, in this box, we have kind of some of our emergency travel foods. So kind of like a meal in a bag, just add water. We've got a couple of those. And then this is our box of random bagged things. We've got some cocoa powder, pepperoni, raisins, dates, some cough drops, because apparently that fits. So kind of have some random things like that. A couple boxes of cereal. So before everyone yells at us for keeping our potatoes and onions together, we are aware that it is kind of one of those things that you're not supposed to keep them right next to each other, but we have them both in this brown paper bag. We buy potatoes and onions almost on like a monthly schedule, so I think I don't have any issue with them being stored together. We use them fairly quickly, that there aren't any issues with that. So I'm aware that the tip is to not keep them together, but we just keep ours together because it doesn't really affect us because we aren't storing them for long periods of time. We've got a bag of onions, a bag of potatoes. And then these are some of our bigger half-gallon size jars. So we have chocolate chips, cocoa powder, we have some popcorn, a couple things of elbow noodles, and then we have some table salt. So this salt isn't actually meant to be consumed for us. We have other kinds of salts for that purpose. This stuff we bought because we want to start trying to tan that hide that we have, that moose hide from the roadkill moose. So we bought it. We got a huge bag of salt specifically for that reason. So that's kind of the reasoning behind this kind of salt. And then we also have a bunch of cornmeal too. Oh, and also on this side, because it didn't fit in the box, we have some dry powder milk, which is, I think, super nice and handy to have on hand. We have a bunch of elbow noodles just because price-wise they are the cheapest. But we also have a couple things of spaghetti noodles and lasagna noodles. We've tried both oven-ready and regular lasagna, and I don't think I'm really sold on which one's better and which one's more effective. So we have both because sometimes I'll just buy one of each at the store. I'll set that aside. So the organization of these shelves kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't. Maybe it only makes sense to me. Down here we've got some of our store-bought tomato sauce because we did run out of our own tomatoes, as well as a few things of beans. So the beans are mostly for chili, and I originally was canning them in pints, but then I would take out 2 or 3 pints to make our chili. So I figured, why not just have them in quarts, and that way I can just take out 1 jar in total. Now that we have gotten our half a cow and that we got the roadkill moose, we don't need to have beans in our chili anymore because we actually have the meat on hand to add into it. So we're not using it quite as fast as we once did, but again, it's super nice to have it on hand. And then in that back corner, we've got our broth. So we have, I think, turkey, chicken, and then also some beef broth, as well as some of our baby food jars of rendered tallow. So this is all from the cow that we got. So we have 2 boxes of those. And then starting here and here and going that way, we've got a few rows of broths. So the broth and beans kind of continues from this shelf on to this one. This is kind of our protein shelf, I guess you could say. So we've got our fish, we have some turkey, some beans, and then the rest of the broth, as well as some extra fat. Let me take some of these out for a better view. So this is what we're looking like with this shelf with the boxes pulled out. We've got our first 3 rows is all turkey. So this is the turkey that we usually buy for sale the day after Thanksgiving. We bring it home, we can it up. We absolutely love using that stuff, so we like to make sure we have plenty of it on hand. And then we have a lot of our salmon. So we have a few different kinds of salmon still. We've got some of the lemon and dill, which wasn't necessarily my favorite, so that flavor is one that's left. And then we have some of our smoked salmon and some of the unsmoked salmon. This was our first year that we really focused on trying to can a lot more salmon. And to be honest, we definitely use the frozen fillets of salmon a lot more than we use the jars of salmon. We much prefer smoked versus plain. I don't think we will ever can plain salmon ever again. It definitely needs to be smoked first. And then also, again, since getting the cow, since getting the moose, we just naturally don't eat the salmon first. This isn't the first thing that we're picking when we're going to plan our meal. So we do need to kind of reprioritize and make sure that we're grabbing that so that we can use it up. And then we have a couple rows of some beans. So I have a few different kinds. I've got some navy beans, some black beans, and then some pinto beans in the back. And then we've got some turkey broth and some chicken broth in the half pints. So this whole tray right here is also all salmon, so it kind of shows that we need to start using it up again because we haven't been doing that good. But this is the very last jar of my favorite salmon. So we didn't do very much of it. We only, because we were experimenting around, we kind of wanted to see. So we just did 1 batch of it, but it is smoked salmon that we canned with jalapenos, and it is absolutely my favorite. I love this one so much. This is the last jar. I've kind of been savoring it, so definitely just need to use it up. So I think the plan going forward is I want to do a lot more like this. Definitely have them all smoked, but I think the jalapeno is kind of a winner for me. In this case, we have a couple more salmon, and then we also have some of our homemade rhubarb sauce. So we've been trying to perfect our rhubarb recipe, and it's not quite there yet, but we are getting really, really close. The only thing that's really missing is getting it a little bit smokier. Otherwise, the flavor is absolutely delicious. So we have a few of these half pints of rhubarb. That's what all of these ones are. And then again, this one is just a couple jars left of tallow and then some lard that we brought with us from Wisconsin. And going up onto this shelf, it's mostly fruits. So we've got a couple things of pie filling. We have both blueberry and apple. These I did before we moved here. I really like them. Cody, not quite so much, which is funny because he was the reason I even made them to begin with. And then he decided he wasn't the biggest fan. And again, I think mostly that's just because I'm not very good at making pie crust. So I need to work on that skill. We have a few fruit cups just for Rowan. And then this whole row is just different kinds of fruits. We've got some peaches, some pears, mixed fruits, some pineapple, a row of green beans. This is a #1 priority for me this coming summer. I want to be able to can up my own jars of beans. We don't use a lot of them, but we definitely like making green bean casserole a few times a year. So being able to do that with my own homegrown beans is going to be super fun. We've got some refried beans, some corn, and then over here are the last of our tomato products that we have. So kind of what we got going on here is we have a 1/2 pint of red salsa, 1 pint of green enchilada sauce, 4 of green salsa, and then we've got 7 tomato soups, and then some store-bought red enchilada sauce, simply because we only have 1 green enchilada sauce left. So learning what we eat, learning what we want to put up has been a big thing. We definitely learned that Cody does not prefer the green sauces as much as he does the red, so that's why we only have 1 of the red left over, and we have more of the green. And basically what that means for me going forward is don't make as much of the green sauce. So I did a year of tomatillos, and that's why we have all of that. I really, really like it. He doesn't enjoy it quite as much, so we just won't make as much going forward. And then the tomato soup. I'm surprised, honestly, that we have this much tomato soup left, because when I was pregnant, I think Cody lived off of noodles and sauce for that entire first or second trimester. I've done a couple different batches of it. One of the batches, as you can see here, I did not strain out the seeds. So the seeds are all still in there. Definitely do not prefer this one as much. Whereas this one, I put it through a really fine sieve and I got all of the skins, all of the seeds out of there. So it's more of just like a pure soup. And we really like this one. And then we get to move on to the shelf behind me now. And this is where all of our jellies, jams, and kind of like fruit preserves are. You're going to have to do your best to ignore the floating outlet that's going to be built into our wall over here once we get our cabinets in. We just haven't quite done it yet. So this is all of the kind of like fruit-based jams, jellies, and stuff that we have preserved, starting with the baby food that I did a while back. So Rowan really, really does like the apples. So that one is a win. We've definitely done more applesauce since then, but she was not a fan of the apricot puree. We tried it. I guess I can kind of see why she might not like it as much. It's not nearly as sweet. It is really good. It definitely has that apricot flavor. So I think I'm going to have to try to find a way to turn this into maybe some apricot muffins for her. See if she will eat that instead, because we want it to be eaten up. So we've got a few more of the applesauce in our weck jars right here. We have a couple things of cinnamon applesauce, which I really, really like to eat. And then we have our watermelon berry jelly, fireweed jelly, and currant jam that are very pretty to look at. The currant jam that we made just this last year, it kind of baffles me. I'm not sure what to do it. It's very, very thick. It's very gummy. Neither of us enjoy actually using it. So I'm not really sure if I can salvage it or not. I have to think on a way. If anyone has any ideas on what you can do with kind of overly thick jam and jelly, let me know, because I'm not really sure what to do about this one. This is some plum jam from Cody's grandma's house. We go over there and we harvest some of the plums, and I absolutely love this. I'm really sad to not have any more once these 3 jars are all used up. This is some ground cherry jam. The flavor is a little bit more bland than we thought. We really like the fruit in and of itself, so I don't think we're going to make any more jam out of this again, and we'll just choose to just eat the fruit as is. But it was a fun experiment to try that one. And then finishing it off, this is back from Wisconsin. We did a batch of dandelion jelly one year, so we've only have 1 more of these left. We've got some mixed berry that we did our first summer here. This is just blueberry, high bush cranberry, and currant. And then way on the back side, we've got a few that are both strawberry and blueberry, as well as some that are just plain strawberry. And these are all from before our move, so we've had them for a while. You can tell how dusty they are. Gotta dust them off. And then on the back wall, we just have our collection of peanut butter. We definitely have not been doing a good job of eating through these jams and jellies. And the biggest reason for that, I would say, is because we just haven't been buying bread, and I haven't been making very much bread. So now that I'm kind of starting to get into sourdough, we're going to have bread a little bit more often around here. So I think this stuff will start to get eaten up. Whereas if we don't have bread, I'm not sure how else people use their jam or jelly, but we just typically don't eat it then. And then our very top shelf up here, we just kind of have a bunch of store-bought products that we like to keep on hand. So we've got some little quick breakfast crackers, Dream Whip, which I just discovered this stuff and I think it's amazing. We wanted to make a pie one day that we wanted some Cool Whip on, and I saw this at the store, so we gave it a try and it worked really, really well. This is some of Rowan's cereal, some oatmeal cereal in the morning. And then back here we have big jars of pineapple and tomato juice, as well as some of our diced tomatoes that we buy at the store. Thinking through a lot of these store-bought items that we buy all the time and use, diced tomatoes is definitely one that I think moving forward, if we can get enough tomatoes out of the garden, I want to stop buying them and start growing them instead. We just haven't been able to get to that point where we grow enough tomatoes to do it, but that one is on my hope list. And we just got a couple things of powdered sugar and brown sugar, some ketchup, barbecue sauce, and then this is kind of like our little fish section. We've got some tuna, some clams, and then over here we've got some jalapeno sardines, which are actually way too hot. We're struggling eating those. And then just some regular sardines right there. Some baking things. And then we've got various things of oils and sugars, some honey, raisins. A lot of this is kind of random, but it's been a goal of ours with this pantry is, since we live so far out and it's not just a quick 5-minute trip to the store whenever we forget something, or if, oh, I want to make this, well, we don't have the ingredients for it. So we're trying to find all of the things that we want to keep on hand so that if we want to make something that we don't necessarily have the ingredient for, maybe we have a substitution that's close enough. So that's kind of what we're working towards. We are not perfect. We do not have everything yet, but we're slowly building on that as we go. And then down here underneath our dishes table, we have some of our bigger, bulkier things on hand. First of all, hot chocolate mix. We have hot chocolate mix in our coffee, so that is an absolute must. We almost ran out of it one time, so we need to make sure that that never happens again. So we have multiple of these. For others, we've got our main staples in these 5-gallon buckets. So this first row right here and one back, these are all flour. So when we did our Costco haul in October, I believe it was, we ended up getting 2 giant bags of flour. And when we split that up, we can fill about 2.5 buckets out of 1 bag of flour. So right now we have about that back one is completely full, and this one is about 2/3 of the way. And that is all that we have left of that flour that we bought back in October. So we've definitely been using it all. This bucket is sugar, and it's almost completely full. We finally got our bag of sugar that we bought to fit in here. And then in the bucket back behind the sugar, we have a big bucket of pinto beans. Similar to the pinto beans in the back in the center, on the back on this side, we have a big thing of rice. When we first did the move to come up here, we weren't sure what the situation was going to be like. We didn't know how easy it was going to be able to get out. We weren't really sure how often we would be going to the grocery store. So kind of it started off as a joke, and then it actually had a little bit of reasonability to it. So we did a 5-gallon bucket of both pinto beans and a 5-gallon bucket of rice. So we had both of those on hand, and we are still working through both of those. The pinto beans, I think we are set for life. The rice, not so much. We use the rice a little bit more, but both of them, it's going to take us a while to work through it. This last one we just started. This is a 5-gallon bucket of oatmeal. One of the future projects that I want to start working on is making our own granola, our own cereal, and our own just granola bars too. So we have a big bucket of that kind of to start preparing and having all the ingredients so I can kind of start experimenting with it all. And then on top of that, These are some of the baby onions that I grew this last year. They're kind of funny, a little bit of a joke with how small they are. Although I will make the argument we already ate all of the ones that were bigger. Some of them aren't too bad, but some of them I think the onion probably got smaller in the long run from the set that I planted. But we have just a few of these left. These are really good ones. We like to chuck them just whole into like a soup or a stew. So we'll work through them still. It's also just kind of fun to experiment and see in the climate of what it is inside the house, how long these might last for. So there is a chance I might just keep some of them in this bowl the entire time, just to kind of see what it takes to keep them from going bad, to see how long they can actually last in our house, being in this furthest back corner where they're dark and they're cool. Then moving down further in between that kitchen table and our refrigerator, we have a bunch of oils and fats and stuff like that. So we have, this is our giant jug of molasses. We have a thing of coconut oil. And then this is our big thing of salt. This is the kind of salt that we like to eat with. And then we just have a collection of some of the bigger jugs of things. We've got apple cider vinegar, 2 things of plain white vinegar, a jug of distilled water. This is a thing of masa flour. We don't use it too often, but every once in a while we grab it. Got some vegetable oil. This is a container for our frying oil. Got our next batch of vanilla doing its thing over there. Some olive oils. For some reason I thought we were out, so I ended up buying another container. So we are doing well on olive oil right now. An extra thing of vegetable oil. And then this is a jug of Everclear if we ever want to get into tinctures. And then we've got some sesame oil. So then moving on, the other side of the fridge is going to be our last shelves that we have to go through. So on the other side, this is the bottle of vanilla that we are currently using. So there's not much left in there. And we did get a tip from someone that you want to keep your vanilla beans in the liquid, otherwise they might start molding. So very simple, boop, we're just laying it on its side. And then that way they're fully submerged. So that is staying right there. And all of this is our dry good storage. So down here we've got some brown rice, some malto meal, and then these are a couple bags of teas that we were gifted. We have a row of various types of nuts. Again, I want to try working on granola bars and cereals, so I'm hoping to use those for that purpose. And then we have some peppercorns, some salt, different things like that. We've got some chia seeds back here. I think all of this is pickling salt, canning and pickling salt. So we've got some mustard seed, clear gel, fruit pectin powder back there. So we've got some cornstarch. This is mustard powder. And then citric acid. So it is a little bit jam-packed in here. I tried to arrange it where the ones that we're grabbing the most frequent are closer to the front, easier accessible, and then the ones that we're not using quite so often are kind of pushed back into the corner. So on the far back side, we have some cinnamon sticks, some dehydrated blueberries, which I was not a fan of. I tried doing that thinking that I could preserve them that way. I'm not really sure how to use those ones up. So if anyone has ever used dehydrated blueberries before, let me know what you do with them to make them kind of more palatable again. We've also got some big things of cinnamon, and then rice flour, and then potato starch, and then some extra baking soda. And way back, we have some more freeze-dried things. So we've got some peas, cauliflower, and then those are bananas. Then moving up to the shelf, we've got some herbs and medicinal things. Lemon balm, lemon mint, some catnip, some toothache plant, which I thought was just so much fun. We don't have very many of those. So I did actually try this, and it really does kind of numb you a little bit. So I thought that was kind of just like a fun experiment to try. We've got some calendula petals. Some little rose petals too, not very many of these. And then little things of chamomile. So I'm not the biggest tea drinker, but it is something that I kind of want to start trying because I think it's really fun that it's something that I can very easily grow for myself and do. So I have kind of a start on those, but I haven't fully taken the plunge into that world yet. Then next to it, we've just got some spices and rubs for different types of seasonings, steak, pork, chicken, stuff like that. Some celery seeds for preserving time, extra things of salt and pepper. Hidden back here are some little drink mixes to flavor your water. If I never have to look at this stuff again, would be the day. When I was pregnant, I had a really hard time keeping down water or food. I couldn't really keep down anything. So I had to turn to doing flavored water just to try to get something into my system, and I'm over it. So we have these on hand. These are extras. I will not be drinking these anytime soon, but if anyone comes visit us, they are more than welcome to go after those. Then lastly, on this top shelf over here, we've got a row of freeze-dried celery, a row of freeze-dried corn, and then a row of freeze-dried onion. And then, of course, back here, we just have some paper plates, some coffee filters. These things are awesome. My parents gifted this to us. You can put your paper plate on it, and then it kind of helps support it a little bit. So we love that. Then kind of moving over, we've got some granola bars. We try really hard not to have too many convenience foods on hand because then we kind of just abuse having it. But it is super nice to have a box of granola bars just when you really need to get out of the house quickly or you're running late. You can just kind of grab it and have something quick to eat. Got some fake syrup and then some dark chocolate. I call this the fancy chocolate to go into any drinks you want to make. Some coffee powder. So we actually have a muffin that this goes in, is what we've been slowly using it for. And these are kind of mostly just some herbs, a couple bit of baking things over on that end. So we've got sesame seeds, some rice seasoning if you ever want to try to make your own sushi. We've got Italian seasoning, cumin. Both of these two jars, this one and then the one behind it, are spearmint. So this was harvested this last summer. And this is actually the first thing tea-wise that I have tried, and I really, really enjoyed it. Then we have some oregano, tarragon, and rosemary. And then this is just some kale powder that we like to just kind of throw into soups and stuff. Got some more rosemary. Poppy seeds, because that is my all-time favorite, lemon poppy seed. Got a few extracts, of course, the lemon flavored. We've got peppermint and almond. And then just some baking things right here. We've got clove, nutmeg, cardamom, ginger, and then cream of tartar. Moving down from there, this is more of our savory type things. So I kind of fell into the world of saving your own seeds in the garden and growing dried beans. So I thought it was so much fun. There's so many different colors and they're all just so pretty. So we have a pretty large selection of dry beans over here of a bunch of different varieties. The bigger jars are all ones that we've just bought at the store, but we do have some of these smaller jars like these, and these are beans that I have saved myself. We just did a couple testers where I only grew a couple plants and then just saved a few of them. So I think they're super pretty. And then we also have some popcorn because I really, really love popcorn. So I thought it'd be fun to try to grow my own, which in Wisconsin, I was successful. I have not been successful up here yet, but I am not counting last year. I'm counting it as a wash. So we will try again this year and see how we do. But I've got some fun colors. So I've got some red and then some blue popcorn. Because I'm a sucker for the colors. So we've got all of those. And then we just have some larger jars of beans over here. These are those pumpkin seeds that we're hopefully very shortly going to make as a snack. We've got a few more seeds, some sunflower seeds, lentils, garbanzo beans, split peas. What is this? Sunflower seeds. And then these ones we kind of grab pretty frequently. So these are some leeks that I grew and dehydrated. This is all we have left of our dehydrated garlic. I'm really hoping that the garlic I have planted right now does well, and then we won't have to do much more of the dehydrated garlic and we can start having that fresh again. Got some taco seasoning, and then this is some dehydrated celery that I also grew. Here we've got some red chili flakes. This is dark chili powder, and then a big thing of paprika. We've just got a couple things of chicken seasoning and Creole seasoning. I don't know why, but I always buy 2 packs whenever I see it, and then we end up with so much seasonings. And then right here, we've actually got some seeds for sprouting. So I actually had someone comment on our last week of meals video about how you can do sprouts for in the wintertime having greens on your sandwiches, and I don't know why I didn't think about that. When I was pregnant, I kind of avoided doing sprouts just in case, just to be safe about it, but I'm not pregnant anymore, so I totally need to start getting. So I definitely need to kind of start looking into the sprouts and starting to do that again, because I have done it and I think it is absolutely a fantastic way to get some greens in the middle of winter. So I've got a jar of just plain broccoli sprouts. And then I also had purchased some random types of sprouts as well, just so I could try out a bunch of different things to figure out what I like the best. But this last year, after the greenhouse got really hot, a lot of my mustards and kales immediately went to seed. I went and I harvested a bunch of the seeds, so I do have some of my own homegrown seed that I can try to make sprouts with as well. So I think that will be a fun experiment. Most of it is from mustard, so it'll be a little bit spicier, but I think that'll be delicious. The last couple jars we have back there are just some more nuts. Again, hopefully going to make some granola bars and some cereal. And then lastly, my super fun spice rack. I love this thing so much. It's so cute. Rowan also absolutely loves playing with this. Once this video is done, I can finally let her back into the kitchen again. She loves pulling all these jars off the shelves and kind of rolling them around on the floor, so she will have quite the kick out of that. So that is pretty much it. It's kind of, again, like I said, the starting point of our pantry and our storage of what we have. We're using it all the time, so things get added, things get used up, so it does kind of fluctuate a little bit, but for the most part, this is probably pretty standard. I will say that this last garden year, we didn't really get enough to preserve things to put on our shelves. We kind of focused more on fresh eating, snacking, stuff like that. I think we're going to be a little bit more able this coming year to really, really focus on the garden and getting as much out of it, preserving as much out of that garden as possible. So hopefully we can have a lot more left on our shelves for this coming winter. I will say we did a pretty good job in the last 1 to 2 years stocking our freezers though. We have been, every time we're at the store and we see a deal on any kind of meat, we always try to grab some of it when we're lacking. We got the half a cow so that we got that half a cow that we processed ourselves and were able to get into the freezer. And we also got that roadkill moose, so that filled it up a ton. Not to mention we also went dip netting, so we have a lot of salmon that was in the freezer then too. So while we might not have preserved a lot out of the garden this last year, we did a lot of work towards getting our freezers full. However, now that the winter is kind of coming towards an end, we need to start plugging in those freezers again. Not yet, but very, very soon. So I think we are going to actually switch gears from filling the freezer to emptying the freezer. So our goal coming up here, we are going to spend an entire week. We are going to get something out of the freezer, bring it into the kitchen, and preserve it so it can go on our shelves. The goal is to empty the freezers enough that we can compact them down to just one freezer having to be plugged in as soon as summer hits, not 3, because we kind of have some things spread out right now. So hopefully by the end of this coming week, this pantry is already going to look a lot more stocked. So you got to buckle up because we are starting that tomorrow. Every single day this coming week, we are going to be preserving something new out of our freezer to get it onto our shelves instead.